Start from the top, say it again. So what's happening here
Okay,
today?
so what's happening here today is obviously since our last shoot, we're getting very close to the end, and it's the last 2 weeks have been reviewing, as we discussed, a lot of stuff happening down below. But right now, this little pattern that you can see right here, I want to make it just a little bit stronger as we sort of slope, sling through here and then back out. Because as we get into the background, the whole idea is of color patterns and just trying to make rich color patterns back here, because on any given day, the water is going to look, God knows how many different colors are going to appear. A friend of mine had sent me a video where he did this around the world cruise a few years ago. So on there were out waters around Hawaii, the South Seas, into the Indian Ocean, into the Arabian Sea, the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, Caribbean, and I mean, you just saw so many things going on, you couldn't make a judgment call. So as I mentioned earlier, the whole purpose of this background is to be a prop for the figures in the front, but we do want to simulate some kind of concept of water and movement. And I'm not here to make this the most detailed piece of maritime work in the history of man, because I'm not a maritime painter. I'm just looking to work with effects because it's my people in the foreground and the story that's being told, which is of the utmost importance to me and to what the project is all about. But it's important to give a nice sense of glass here at any rate, and so I'm just kind of going through here to create a little more of a solid pattern right through here. And then once that's done, we're going to do a little experimenting with the palette knife and some masking, and once we get to that area, I'll explain that more. But for right now, we'll just concentrate up here and see how this takes shape. Of course, you see how the light changed? Did you catch that in the camera? The sun got covered by a cloud, so all of a sudden we have a whole different feel coming through the skylight. But I don't have the camera jump too much when I do that. Do I need to forewarn you when I do that next time?
Doesn't matter, it's editable. I don't think they're going to use the whole thing from
Okay.
get-go to get-go.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, when you jump around a little bit, even up there, I noticed a little bit of that. So I tried to put my tried to put my weight on there to see if that made a difference. You just have to be a ballerina dancer.
Okay. I'll step lightly. after some of the detail work I've been doing lately, it's really a real pleasure to be just kind of working with shape and color. One of the more nerve-wracking things was writing the names of the 13 individuals on that flag. That ended up taking like a day and a half. It was not the entire time, I mean, but it was like, to get it to look decent, it was important to take the time. Remind me when we're done here and we pull the camera down below to tell you an interesting little sidebar story that I realized the other morning when a friend was in here about where a person is looking in the painting. Still paint with my fingers, but I make sure that I wipe it off on this side, because actually what I'm doing is I'm pushing lead around, so I'll make sure that I get it off my fingers. So I'm rubbing on the side of the canvas here. Of course, that doesn't totally clean it off, at least it gets some of it off. So as they say in the ads, please don't do this at home. Step back down again.
I'm ready.
Okay. To watch where the edge is of the box, you don't step off it. Actually, I'm going to try, since we're up here, something else too. May as well, since we're at it. Not too strong. Okay, I'm going to step down again. Actually, I'm going to go back up here and see how it's looking. Okay, coming back up. You want to talk to him? these kind of areas too, I like to work with thinner veils of color, so stuff sort of bleeds through and you don't necessarily cover everything, so you get like a lot of little things bouncing around. And of course you'll appreciate more of that once the final varnish coat gets on the painting, because then areas aren't so sunken in and the real richness of the color will come out. Well, it's out right now, but other areas are sort of sunken in. If you were to stand on the side of the painting, you could see some of the really opaque areas versus those that are really standing up right now. Step down again. Okay. I think what we'll do just for a little bit before I get down there is let's move everything over that way a little. So if you want to take a break, and because I need to pull the box to the ends, I need to come this way. So what we'll do is we'll pull the whole stand. So
I'm going to look at your other camera.
oh, okay.
I like that one.
Pardon me?
I like that angle.
Okay, good.
We want to mix it up a little bit.
Stepping down. This is where it'd be nice just to have the easel at a little lower level, but good exercise. Okay, I think what we'll do now is stop with that part and then get over. So what's going to happen here, as you can see through here, the palette knife was kind of used, but I didn't want to get, I kind of played around a little, I didn't want to get too close to the heads, but I needed to maintain, some sort of this kind of feel through here, and a little more bravely. So what I decided to do is what, excuse me, what watercolor painters do, and that's kind of come through and sort of mask this. And so we'll see how this works. And by taping, which way is this? Taping along these borders, I should be able to kind of come in there with the palette knife. I don't need to get right up to it, so it's just a matter of we'll see how this works. In theory, it should. Of course, the more difficult thing is going to be matched color. So we'll see how that goes too. That's about all, because this wave can kind of come down through here. This is going to be problematic, but I'm going to have to do that with a brush because it's such a small area that you really couldn't do much with that. So let's see what, okay, like right here. Come on in.
Anybody home?
Hey, Tony, what's happening?
Not too much. Uh-oh, I hope I'm not ruining the audio.
No, we're just, I'm doing what is probably a very boring part here. I'm taping over the edge of the imagery. I'm going to do a little experiment and see if this works. In theory, it should.
Now that would scare me to death, what you're doing right there.
Well, hopefully this is all dry enough that it's not going to do anything. No, I tape.
Joe, nice to see you.
Greg.
Do you remember my associate Greg from the event?
Yeah.
And Charles, I don't know if you know Greg or not.
I don't think we've ever been formally introduced.
Now we
Charles,
have.
We
Charles,
have.
pleasure to meet you.
Good to see you there.
What? No. So what are you doing right now?
Okay, well, if you look up here, you can see I work with a palette knife, but I mean, to play with the knife, you can only get so close without trying to.
Is that a wide blade then?
Yeah, it's about that long.
see. So
And
you
so
need
what
to
I
start chopping
so what I
it.
want to do is I want to kind of come through and just kind of pop up and see what happens. And so I came up with this idea and going to find out if it works. Should.
I used tape like that once to redo a bar that the toe kick needed to be resprayed, so I carefully used that nice tape like that, and damn if I didn't pull the whole finish off when I was
Oh, really?
Oh, and it was not
Well, this is
cool.
all, like lead and stuff like that that's right under here. So, I mean, when you come, it shouldn't do anything, see?
I swear to God, that makes me so nervous.
Well, we'll see what happens here.
Nice.
Oops. Okay, now.
Pretty cool, huh, Greg?
Yeah. Come on.
Experimenting a little bit here with, actually what I may have to do because of the light, hold on just a second. Let me see here. Oh, it's over there. With the light kind of popping in and out on me right now, I'm going to need to get something a little closer to where I'm working. So we'll see what happens for you when this thing gets brought over there. The other thing is I'm going to need to get myself up probably just a hair higher. Okay. Working with a palette knife is not something I've done a lot of, so mixing the color to kind of get it the way it was is going to be probably a little tougher just because it was a while ago when I did that. Looks like the other camera has turned itself off.
And the battery's gone.
Oh, I had charged it up for the other day, so.
Well, we've been here for, looks like about 50 minutes. That's about all you got on that little battery.
Oh, okay.
We could plug it in.
There we go. Okay, since I have kind of what I need, let's see what happens here. can kind of see where this would be hazardous if I didn't have the tape over that. And then once this is dry, I'll kind of go back in with a brush in some areas to kind of, oops, get underneath the tape, to glaze some other colors. To see how that'll, I guess I could have gone a little bit more over here too. Well, we'll see. Okay, now leave that for a second, and we'll pull the tape off and go back in with a brush and see what happens here. And then, of course, we'll see if any marks are made, which shouldn't have happened. Okay, now get rid of this, get the brushes. Try this one right here. Now what I'll do is I'll just kind of go in a little bit of oil, kind of play into these edges a little bit. The one thing too, to create a little more atmosphere in painting, you always drag your background over foreground to soften your edges, and that's really one way you can also, have the eye. You can bring a person's attention to an area by, hard edges or soft edges. I mean, obviously, real hard edges will pull you right to it, and then the soft edges, they'll just sort of disappear into the background, creating a little bit more atmosphere for you. So that's kind of what I'm doing right here, because that other arm is on the other side, we want to have it thrusting that way. I want to keep some of the texture fairly rough, and you can see areas like right there if you hone in. The thing about playing with the palette knife is what's underneath will be kind of bleeding through, so you'll have a little bit of a 3D effect by the allowing that kind of bleed through in a different sort of way, where in some of these transparent shadow areas the undercolor bleeds through, but because of a glaze laying over, not like a broken up kind of sort of scumble scarring of it. Just have to decide that might be a little too... Well, it seems to have worked. Not too much blue in there. Let's see what we can do over here. This is the tricky part, so I guess I better see what's happening there. There'll be a bit of a shift in the dynamics, I think, color-wise, because I've needed a little bit darker color just behind those portraits to make them stand out a bit more. Oh, come on up here. Real close right there. First thing I'll do is get that paint away from her lip here. Now what this is going to do, this is one of the other reasons why I needed to get onto that part up in the front here, is that with this blue getting a little more powerful, these portraits are going to pop just a bit more, which is really what I needed to have happen. You can sort of see that probably happening through the camera as I pull a little stronger blue up against the flesh colors of her face. It's starting to jump a little bit more because the value difference has been elevated, and also the color density has been brought up. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's start back here. Just getting a little bit of oil on my brush to help make it a little more fluid as I play with it. And the strength of the white on his cover will come out a lot more. That's what I learned. You don't call these hats, you call it the cover. Well, I think what I need to do is pull everything back so I can kind of see what, and yeah, it does. So that was exactly what I wanted to see. For the remainder of what needs to happen, with some of those areas. I mean, because, you know, it's been a long time since, you know, this part up here got sort of pulled down into this area, and now it really did it. And I want it, purposely, I'm breaking up the paint with those sort of palette knifey patterns. I mean, it adds, I think, a little more drama. And now I just kind of get these colors blended into his hand here so I know where to pick up tomorrow. And of course, the other part too was really sort of making sure that when I came in with this color around her nose, that it was very soft and just, you know, kind of pulled into some of these areas. Again, as I was talking earlier about how you create the atmosphere and kind of keep some of the undercolors coming through, which is very important. And the other thing that I'll do, just well, now I'm going to step back, but I'll show you something else, so don't turn the camera off. Yeah, that was exactly what I wanted to see happen as I stepped back here, because the whole thing was, there's an Italian word, I mean, I knew I'd do it eventually, but I mean, it's an Italian word called stoccato, and my teacher would always say, il fondo è stoccato al dietro. non c'è abbastanza profondità, which means the foreground is stuck to the background. There's not quite enough depth. And so the whole idea of what I did today was I circled around that one pattern. I can see a little bit of a change that could be done, but throwing the whole background down is what that just did. Between the top part and then what I just did, there was a detachment between several areas. One, the figures were a little too close in value, but then number two, the feeling I needed to throw the heavy palette knife work away from the foreground began to happen here. So it looks like pools, and I can see something. I can just, where's the palette knife? Or a big brush. One or the other is going to do the trick. This is where it's really advantageous to have this kind of distance where you can really step back from the painting and then, okay, kind of look at it.
Come forward 2 steps where I get better light on your face.
Oh, okay,
Right there.
okay.
No, that's perfect.
The only reason I step back is it's a little bit of glare in my eyes, so I need to go like this quick, like.
Well, that's not right either. Move back. Get comfortable.
Yeah, there we go. I need to be right here only because the glare, otherwise I have to put a hat on because it causes, that's why when I'm studying this thing at night, and that's what we were talking about, like what you're seeing all the time is that upper right-hand corner, because that light dropping down from the skylight, I'm getting the glare off the varnish right there, whereas in the day, as I mentioned, when it was nice and cloudy, boom, you could just read her beautifully. Okay, now, I'm going to turn it, I'll wait till you get, and I will do, I like that little work up there. Was it windy driving up here today?
No, it wasn't.
Huh.
Nope.
Okay, the other thing I was going to do is going to grab this other brush. Yeah, my wife wants to go for a walk here at 5 o'clock. I wonder how damn windy it's going to be.
It's not bad. Well, it's a little bit windy. You know, but maybe you just have to find a place. Go in the big woods out.
Well, that's where, do you know where Crane Meadows is?
Yes, I do. It's southwest, southeast.
Southeast, yeah. She wants to go there. We're going to meet some friends. And today is Arbor Day. And matter of fact, I didn't get a chance to address it. But I will do that quick. Like I'll just write, hold on here. This way I can hand deliver it. Catherine does not do Christmas cards. She's been doing Arbor Day cards forever and a day.
Well, forever and a day. Well, I love this.
And so she has a little poem that she wrote on the back. And I just told her that I would hand deliver yours since you were going to be here, which saved me.
Thank you. This is uniquely different, and that's what differentiates people by not just the same old what's expected, but the unexpected.
Okay, so change topic just for a second. This is a little fan brush, and what I'm doing is I want to knock down a little bit of the brushwork that's right in front of her face, just so it knocks some of that untimely kind of glare. Matter of fact, I need to grab one thing just behind you here. Until these things get varnished, there's a very unequalness between the tones of the foreground and background. So with this little brush right here, That would have been interesting. Footage would have been, my nephew was here on Sunday, and if you could have just watched him as he was examining every square inch of the painting, and I mean, he's an incredible young man, and it was a lot of fun. He and his wife came over with the little one.
It's got to be rewarding to be working with people that, you know, everybody in this portrait, this painting, really has their story from how you acquired their image or you visioned their image.
Oh, I know. Speaking of that, off these chips, you obviously can make discs and all that. What I want to do is I want to give you the last one because I'd like to see what it looked out, but I've got it on the desk. You can take it back with you and put it on a disc for me. It's the interview time and time that I had with Ray.
Yes.
Because he's no longer with us, as you
Yes.
know. And so there when all this started, he started sitting for us last year. Bob just sort of started interviewing and talking with them. And then we did some different things as time went on. But the most important thing is, it was last Tuesday of April last spring, Ray had said, I want to be able to pose in my uniform with Howard, you know, before I can't anymore. So I set it up. So David Swantik and I set them up and did the photo shoots, and you know, them together, then one with David and them, then one with me and them. And then we sat the two of them down and just turned on the camera for about 55 minutes and just let them talk back and forth. And all the time Ray knowing that Howard was his superior by, you know, one rank and elderly, but they talked about Navy time from like basically 1942 to 1999, 2000. And it was really interesting because Ray, just always being that teacher, Howard, you know, 89 years old, sharp as a tack, was able to bring out and just keep this conversation going. And David and I were just like, man, did we catch a moment. I mean, you know, big time. And so it's something that I know both families would appreciate. Yep. And then after that, there's footage of me out in the back by the garage, and Ray is emptying out his duffel bag with all of his diving uniforms and different outfits, explaining which one is which one, who's supposed to be wearing it when, because he set up who he thinks should model for the lady diver in the Coast Guard, because, you know, the one thing we're all saying is, you know, there's one problem with this project. And I said, what's that? He said, it's a little too white. I said, yes, I get the drift here, you know, so we need to get some more ethnics in here. So we got that all set up for the Coast Guard. So the young gal that he brought over here is Asian American, and she'll be a lovely addition to the painting. And then I met someone out at camp with Major Donovan a while back that I'm hoping we can, African-American guy who lives in, I think he said Wadena, that we can get him to be one of the Coast Guard. Do you know John Donovan, by the way?
No. Oh, John Donovan?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was at the Paramount.
Yeah, right.
10, 12 years ago. I really recorded he and his wife's wedding at a house.
You know, he re-upped into the military.
Yeah.
Well, he's now the communications director out at Camp Ripley. So I first got introduced to him, God, when was it? It was a couple of years ago, and then last February when I was out there for, they had a little ceremony with the 40th anniversary of the Norwegian Home Guard. They had this piece of granite or whatever, some, you know, rock that was from this one area where the Red Bulls train when they're over in Norway. And so they brought it, and the Secretary of Defense of Norway was there, and he's a 4-star general, and there the Home Guard head was there, a 2-star general. Well, it's really funny because, you know, he did all the first briefing, and so we're standing outside, and tail end, he needed a ride. He says, God, he said, you going down the way? Yeah, no problem. So we just started a conversation, and one thing kind of led to another. So he's been set up a couple of interviews, and then I had arranged to have a Lindbergh piece donated to them that we had a little thing out at it was earlier in the year out at camp, and then he just sort of stays in touch. Well, this morning he called up, and I had asked Colonel St. Sauber if he would, you know, he and his staff would write the Army essay. And in addition to that, the Colonel was here a couple months ago, and I said, you know, we could really use some help with defense contractors. So I haven't seen the email, but they have supplied us with a name of about 14 different contact people with different contractors who do work out at camp. As far as, there was this one big firm that was experimenting with a new Navy mortar system. And so unfortunately, the guys at camp, or in the Guard itself, they can't make any soliciting phone calls. But one of our key people who's helped us along here is a retired Rear Admiral, who's the one who got me on board the nuclear-powered Trident submarine a year and a half ago, because his last command in the Navy was the entire Pacific Fleet of nuclear-powered subs, and he went on to head up the Naval Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. for 7 years. Matter of fact, when you said you went to the Navy Memorial, were the lone sailor, that was Hank who got that commissioned.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so he's the guy that can do the phone calls for us, because he's always wondering, okay, where are we at? And so I have to just call him and say, Admiral, I need a favor. You got to make some phone calls.
Yep.
And then the other thing that Major Donovan told me this morning, he says, well...
Major Donovan?
Yeah, he's a major now.
Oh,
Major
yeah.
John Donovan.
Oh, yeah.
Because when he got back in, obviously because of his education and all that, they fast-tracked him up, because then he was General Shelito's aide for 2 years. Larry Shelito, who's now he was the former Adjutant General of the Minnesota National Guard. Now he's the Commissioner of Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. So he's the guy that is the overseer of this project, in essence, by the fact that he is in charge of the cemeteries and the VA and all that sort of stuff. So anyhow, so then Major Donovan says, well, I started talking about some different things and asked him if he knew Marty Mahold. He says, oh yeah, I know Marty really well. And he says, well, he's the one that got us in front of the Rotary last Tuesday to do our spiel, and he's got a whole little plan in mind that he wants going. And we need to do this, and this, Donnie. So I'll tell you what, hold on, just like one more thing I can do. He says, he said, do you know the current president of St. Cloud State? And I said, no. He said, well, he's a retired Coast Guard captain. And I can facilitate a meeting between the two of you to get the ball rolling on someone there, but possibly also soliciting donations. He says, obviously I can't do it, but the lead-in would be, would you be willing to be helpful on historic research and assisting him along on Coast Guard culture? I said, that's exactly what I need. So there's all these little things that started to trip into place this year. Exactly, and Major Donovan has been very helpful, and so he's actually, and his aide are going to come in here next week and start the storyline about the installation, which is going to be on the 20th of May at 4:30 to 5:30 at the cemetery. That Tuesday afternoon, we'll hoist the painting up and drop her in place and have a small program. And so he wants to do it through all of their news outlets. And so they're going to come in and do some shots in here, start the story, then come out there on that day, cover it, and then they send it out to all of their places. So it goes through all the military networks in addition to whomever wants to pick it up. But he said, with this murder trial going on in Little Falls, nobody's interested in anything. I mean, they just got like a major environmental award from the Department of Defense signed off by Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel. They sent out this press release and no one showed up. He said, they're all downtown at the courthouse. Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, soundbite America.
Yeah.
We want sensationalism.
We want the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think for now.
Turn her off?
Yeah.
All right.
Because then at this point, it's getting a little dark on this side for me to do that. I mean, I'll work smaller, but also with Catherine coming over here, we got to go do our walk, and so.
Yep. So what we'll do is you'll give me your